This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And this half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. For Kia Hyundai, the best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. Terrific service department. Whether it's quick lane, inspections, routine, difficult, they handle it all at Sunbury Motors. 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Very pleased, as always, in this limited window we have, to have Adam Rittenberg with us from ESPN. Adam, welcome back. Great to have you with us. I hope you're doing well.
Doing well, Steve. Yeah, just making rounds to some of these ACC schools this week, but happy to be with you as always.
What are you picking up as you make the rounds of the ACC schools, and has that included North Carolina yet?
Yeah, I did stop by North Carolina the other day. Coach Belichick wasn't there, although I did meet briefly with his son, Brian, and some of the other assistant coaches, and certainly is a different feel, with him as the head coach there, and it's going to be a program that's going to be watched maybe unlike ever before, and they haven't done a lot of interviews and really been out in the public very much, but they're certainly preparing as much as they can. They just picked up a transfer quarterback and Gio Lopez from South Alabama. I'm actually at Wake Forest today, and some of their coaches coached Gio last year, and he's certainly a promising talent for North Carolina. So definitely, much like with Colorado a few years ago and Deion Sanders, I think we're going to be reading a lot of Bill Belichick stories this year.
Oh, I think so too. And if he were there, I think his quote to you would have been, "Well, it's on to Duke." Anybody else that you picked up along the way where you walked out of there at least impressed by the general feel and culture of the place that you were at?
Really, all the other four places I've been to have been impressed. I went down to South Carolina yesterday and visited with Coach Beamer, and obviously they have it rolling there with Lenora Sellers coming back. But ACC-wise, I think Georgia Tech is really a team to watch. And Brent Key has quietly done a really nice job there, especially winning big games. They beat Florida State, they beat Miami. They should have beaten Georgia in that wild game at the end of the season. And they bring back their quarterback and they bring back their star running back, and they haven't lost, at least as we speak here today, a ton of players of value into the portal. And so I think that's a program, if you're looking for kind of a sleeper ACC team that could challenge, for maybe the ACC title if all things go well. If Haynes King can stay healthy, they really believe that they have an opportunity to do some big things there. And then I was at Duke the other day with Manny Diaz, and they made a splash in the portal, obviously, with Darian Mensah coming in from Tulane, and Manny told me it was really kind of symbolic. Obviously, they wanted him as a player, and he's a multi-year guy for them. But just to tell Duke people and the rest of the country that Duke is serious about football. I mean, you walk on that campus, and Cameron Indoor's right there, and the Duke Basketball Museum, but Duke football doesn't have nearly that history, yet they've had some success here lately, and they're trying to build on that with a player like Darian Mensah.
Is Manny in any way approaching it any different than he did at Miami? And did the Penn State experience give him some perspective on that?
Well, I think all your experiences help. And, it's obviously a very different program. He doesn't have the personal connection to Duke as he did at Miami, having grown up in that area with his family and everything. But, I think it's just a very different type of program in terms of the players that they recruit, and how they recruit, and their history and their expectations. But I think there's certainly a desire to win there, like he had at Miami. I think there's just it's a simplified environment, if that makes sense. Miami, I think, to their detriment here, especially over the last 20 years, I think that the environment around that program has contributed to them not being as successful as their potential is as a program. Whereas at Duke, he doesn't have to deal with some of those other things, those factors that I think hurt him and have hurt other coaches ultimately at Miami. And so I think his personality, how smart he is and how he thinks about football, and really the type of guy you sit with Manny, that he could have been successful in a number of different fields. I mean, I sit in front of football coaches. You've talked to a lot of them, and you kind of walk away from some of those meetings saying, thank God there's football, because this person probably couldn't have been successful in another line of work. Manny Diaz is not one of them. Whether Manny continued his career at ESPN, people forget he worked there, or he was in finance, or he was a doctor, a lawyer. He's the type of guy that he's just that smart. I think he would have been successful in no matter what he did.
Agreed across the board. South Carolina, 14th last year in the final college football playoff poll, and they created an argument despite 3 losses along the way. What did you take away from what's going on there and the excitement maybe even in Columbia that may not have been there 2-3 years ago?
Well, it was interesting talking with Shane Beamer. He pointed out that no one really thought they were going to be good going into last year, but they thought they would because of the number of players they had returning. Now they lose a number of really good players to the NFL. They're going to have, I think they had 13 players invited to the combine. They could have 8 or 9 draft picks, including obviously their safety going in the first round. And so it's largely a new team, either new transfers coming in or returning players that have been elevated to bigger roles, but they're also bringing back a star quarterback, which they didn't have. Right. There's a major question last year. Now Lenora Sellers, who I spoke to yesterday, is a Heisman Trophy candidate, and a guy who had that incredible performance against Clemson, and who everyone's going to be buzzing about as one of the best players in the country. Can they build around him now and fill some of those holes, especially on defense? I had a coordinator in the SEC tell me that South Carolina was one of the more impressive-looking defenses that he saw all season, and Ole Miss was right up there as well. But so there's certainly a higher expectation now, and they know that the next step for them is the college football playoff. There was a time not long ago that you could win 9 games, and your next step was winning 9 games again, probably, or maybe winning 10. But now, because the expanded playoff and the teams that have made it, it's really provided a level of hope for a program that, again, just doesn't have the history of Penn State or Alabama or Georgia or Texas or some of these other teams that are making the playoff. But South Carolina can look at that as a realistic goal now.
Ironically, before the show, Jack Ham called me. We were talking about a couple of things. And at one stage he said to me, after watching everything play out at Tennessee, are we surprised anymore about anything we see? And I said, not particularly. What was your take on that? And by the way, that doesn't mean this didn't happen maybe subtly a year ago at a couple of other places. But being a quarterback, this was more public. What was your thought on this one and how it played out with Nico?
Yeah, it's a great point, Steve, that, in talking to some folks the last couple of days, they said absolutely it's happened. Oftentimes it's been resolved or it hasn't gotten out publicly the way that it did at Tennessee. And, I think what makes this unique is the player involved, the position he plays, the school, and then maybe more so than anything, the timing of when this happened, right at the end of spring practice, when a lot of teams have wrapped up their springs, and that he was on track to be the starter and to lead a team that had made the playoff last year, but, potentially back to the playoff or to win the SEC championship. And so I think I think it's an important moment. And coaches that I've talked to have mentioned that Tennessee's stance and saying, no, Nico, we're not going to pay you double because you're not worth that. And we've given you a really good deal, especially coming out of high school when you hadn't taken a single snap at the college level and barely took any meaningful snaps as a freshman before moving into the starting role. We're not going to double your salary. And if you want to walk, you can walk. And so coaches have said that that's an important moment, and it's obviously a situation that, at least as we sit here today, does not seem to be beneficial to the player, which is unfortunate. And the thing that really gets to me, Steve, is that it's just disruptive. It's disruptive for the Tennessee program. We know that.
Yep.
It's disruptive for whichever program he goes to next, UCLA. I just talked with Coach Foster last week. You know, he was very happy with Joey Aguilar and the offense and where they're headed. If he goes there, it's going to disrupt their program to a degree. Tennessee's going to have to add a starter caliber quarterback from outside the SEC, most likely. It's going to disrupt that team. Let's say he grabs someone from the Big 12 or the Big 10. Then that team has to go out in some cases. So when does it stop? And we're sitting here, and there's not much of an opportunity for these guys to prepare for the season in a formal setting until they get back together in late July, early August. I think that's really unfortunate. So, the big thing I've been talking about on this trip is how do you structure the sport better? Because the way it is right now, it just doesn't work for enough people that are obviously grinding and working every day.
And part of that's the 105, and we're still waiting for the House settlement to be approved by Judge Claudia Wilkin. Have you had an opportunity to talk to the coaches about the 105 and about the walk-ons and about the possibility of having to cut people?
Really, all of it. I think there, certainly is a expectation that this is going to happen relatively soon. But there, just talked with someone moments ago here at Wake Forest about how they didn't expect this to be finalized by early April, and that we would still be in the kind of waiting game stage. And so you have a lot of these schools that are pouring money into NIL to try to distribute it before this, the rev share goes into effect. And then, the 105 factor is big. I was talking to the director of a collective in the Big Ten the other day about transfer possibilities, and they were saying, well, no, we're not really focused on that. We need to get our roster down 10 to 15 spots to be able to meet the 105 threshold. So, Nico is certainly a story because it's the front end of the roster. It's starting quarterback of an SEC program. But then, as you point out, there's also conversations going on in the back end of a roster where guys are being told, hey, you don't have a spot here. You should probably move on. If you want to start or have any sort of meaningful role, this is time to get into the portal. And, we all remember a couple of years ago, that's what Deion Sanders in Colorado did, and we were all talking about that as the big story. Now, how they did it, could it have been handled better? Absolutely up for debate. But that process of cutting your roster down is absolutely occurring. Coaches I was talking to this week were meeting with me in between exit meetings with their athletes after spring. So all of that is happening right now.
I know you have to go, Adam. We appreciate the time you gave us today. Thanks so much, my friend. Appreciate you.
You bet. Thanks for having me. Have a great weekend.
Adam Rittenberg from ESPN. We'll come back with more in a moment. Brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
If you're suffering from spring fever, Sunbury Motors Kia has the cure.
Wanna see ya in Kia. Sunbury Motors Kia.
The spring fever reliever is a new Kia from Sunbury Motors Kia. They make it easy to choose because there's 120 brand new Kias available. And $750 owner loyalty is back on the hottest selling Kia models, including the Made in the USA 2025 Kia Sportages and Serenos. Drive home in a 2025 Kia Sportage EX all-wheel drive with leather for under $30,000. Or how about the third row 2025 Kia Sereno S all-wheel drive? Save thousands now as low as $35,034. And of course, every new Kia comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Stop in today and check out the full Kia lineup, and together we can be alive in 2025 at Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip in Hummel's Wharf. Warranty is a limited powertrain warranty. For details, see retailer or go to kia.com.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The Beverage Supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And this half hour brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket, imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. Not only that, ready to drink cocktails. High Noon, Jack Daniels, Crown Royal. Pickle Bar led by our two personal favorites, the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none. All at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Stock up now for the big holiday weekend. Put your feet up and just enjoy. Jack asked me, he says, so big family weekend? I says, explain that I'm going to go to the reenactment of the Battle of Lexington tomorrow morning. 5 a.m., by the way. My son's going to go with me, which is nice. So, but then we're going to the Red Sox game. He says to me, nothing screams Easter like that. I says, yes, he is risen. Let's go to the ball game.
The King has joined us.
Welcome to the King, celebrating another championship in a championship life.
Yes, I am live from the campus of UConn right now. Well, actually, my house, but
you're about as close as you can get.
Campbell Pavilion. So,
have you, since you've lived there, have you gone to a game at Campbell?
have I what?
I said, since you've lived there, what, 2 years now? Have you gone to a game at Campbell, or are the tickets too hard to get?
No, I went to a game. I went not last year, the year before. Back when UConn only had 5 players, they were all hurt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they played Marquette, and they blew them out. So, hey, UConn women have had a heck of a time. They don't talk about it enough, and I'm not being a homer here. I mean, they had to forfeit 2 games 2 years ago. They didn't have enough players. They were all hurt. And finally this year, all the players were healthy with 2 months left in the season. They were all healthy. And it was like, whoa, wait a minute. They've got all their weapons now, and they're a completely different team. So, I mean, that can throw in Sarah Strong, the freshman, and you've got a powerhouse. I mean, they blew everybody out. Their toughest game was USC. So.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that there's a small segment of the fan base. It's small. It's not a big segment. Most fans understand and they get it. But they'll get mad about a program and they'll say, "Look, injuries are an excuse."
Yeah, they didn't use it as an excuse.
Right.
They never.
But I always tell them.
Boo-hooed. They said that. They said, "Hey, injury is part of the game."
Right.
Never used it as an excuse.
It may be. It may be
tough when they had to forfeit. It's like, hey, we don't have enough guns. They're all hurt. We have more people hurt than are unhurt. But
I mean, it may be. It's fine to take that attitude, but there's a reality to it. The reality is this: if I've got, let's just take 2 players out that are starters, there is a multitude of reasons why those 2 players are starting and the 2 players replacing them are not starting.
Right.
So there's a multitude of reasons, right? Those 2 people are probably better.
Yeah, and a basketball program, I mean, you can only take in so many players.
Right.
So this is your plan. Well, when they get hurt, there is a plan B, but in their case, is there a plan C? It's like but they persevered, and Paige Becker and A.Z. Fudd both had blown out knees twice.
Yep.
And the idea that I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I work out all the time, but I don't know if I could rehab myself twice, like go through an entire year of just rehab so I can play again, only to go out and do it again and blow the other knee out, and have to go through it again. And to see them get the chance to win was, I mean, I know there's not a huge women's basketball, people could care less, but just on a human side of it, they deserved it. It was good to see them go through all that hard work that man or woman is a very mentally tough thing to do, and they did it, and they conquered it. And A.Z. Fudd can shoot.
Yeah.
And then I'll get off of this. One of the greatest coaching moves I've ever seen. They were playing, I believe it was USC in the Elite Eight, and USC caught up. UConn were winning the whole game. USC was only up by 5. Was it Yeah, USC. They caught up. They were only down by 5. A.Z. Fudd couldn't hit the backboard. She was 0 for 9. And they called timeout, and Gino set up a play they inbounded it on their end. They wheeled it around the court, and Paige Beckers was in the far right corner. They wheeled it around to her, but when they started to play, A.Z. Fudd was under the basket. When they started to pass it around, A.Z. Fudd sprinted to the top of the key, to the three-point line. Paige Becker never even really caught the ball, fired it to A.Z. Fudd, and she drops in a 3. Just like that. He sets up a play for the kid who's 0 for 9. And she nails it, and then she hits her next 3 3-pointers, and then she goes on to the Final Four and is the Final Four MVP. He knew he had to show her confidence that they needed her to score, and that's all she needed, and she exploded. So,
well,
that's the coach knowing what he has to do in that moment. You know?
Yeah, we talk about that all the time. If you can always set up somebody for a layup that's struggling, they just need to see the ball go in the basket. Okay, it changes everything once they see the ball go in the basket. It changes everything. And in terms of injuries, Penn State has a football player right now that's in that spot. That when I was talking to the Penn State quarterback club 3 weeks ago, I said if there's one player on this team that you should root for, that is a really talented player, it's Zariah Fisher, because he has gone through 2 ACL injuries. And it looked like he battled his guts out to get back. And then he finally gets back and then has another one. And he's done the same thing. He has fought his guts out to get back, and he's had an excellent spring to this point. He's got a chance to be a starter here. But, again, that's something that's you root for those guys.
Yeah.
You root for those guys.
Their perseverance, Nobody's standing there clapping for them when they're rehabbing. They're pretty much by themselves. You know?
It's hard. It's hard because they feel removed. Well, they feel removed from the team.
Yeah, it is and that's why I'm happy for Connecticut. I know people get sick of them, but, you know, they've been 9 years since they won their last one. So, but the men won the last 2 years, and now the women won this year. They're getting good at the parades. So
they perfected it.
Yeah,
they have perfected it.
At Lamont in Connecticut. But anyway, hey, I was happy to see Penn State in the Final Four of hockey.
That was great.
I can't wait till they come to Connecticut to play. I'll be there. I'll wave to your announcer friend.
Oh, Brian. Yeah, Brian's great.
That's on the other side of campus. It's a brand new facility. It's really nice.
Is it really? Oh, great.
Oh, yeah. I've driven by it. I haven't been in it, but that's a hard ticket to get. Hockey night now here is a big night. So, you know.
Well, I mean, look, they got to the Elite Eight. And Penn State was able to beat them in overtime. In fact, to be honest with you, they tilted the ice. UConn did in the third period. Penn State survived to get to overtime, and then in overtime, Penn State won it on a great play. But hockey's huge at Penn State. They're averaging almost 6,500 a game, which is every seat.
That's a nice place. I went to a game there.
I mean, that place? It's amazing what you get for your $102 million.
I wouldn't know.
and it helps when one guy gives it to you.
Yeah. Does he still own the Sabres?
Yeah, Sabres, the Rochester Americans, and the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, he owns the Bills too?
Yeah.
Boy, I've failed in my life.
Jack and I had a great talk with him back in November when he came in for the Washington game. Terry Pagula's a great guy, and his daughter. I mean, you see his daughter, Jessie, who made the U.S. Open tennis final last year.
Really?
And she just won. She's won 2 big tournaments here to start the year.
Oh, I've seen her. Yeah, absolutely. I know who she is.
Yep.
Yeah. They were talking about her dad when she was playing. I love women's sports. I don't know why. You know?
That's fine.
Maybe it's more
that's
pure
great.
than the men. It's not all muscle. You know, you got to actually make a play. You know, but I love women's tennis. Holy cow!
That's great. No. In fact, I think women's tennis in some ways more popular than men's tennis.
Yeah, because it is a power game, but it's also shot making, and you know, you're not just blowing the ball past the person. I mean, the women admit. Serena Williams admits. She said, "I couldn't beat the 300th best male in the world. They hit the ball too hard." You know.
But it's all about competition. It's not about. To me, it's about competition, not about the fact that somebody can jump higher or hit the ball harder or whatever. If you have great competition and great storylines surrounding the competition, people love it.
Yeah. Although the male I love watching is Novak. I can't.
Novak Djokovic. Novak Djokovic.
Oh my God, he is fun to watch. Oh, my ring camera's going on. He is fun to watch, and he's a good guy. So, you ever seen that video where the other one hits the ball and hits a little girl in the head? She's one of the ball girls. Who's the other great player? He's retiring now.
Rafa Nadal?
Yes, Nadal. He hits the ball, and he hits her in the head, and he's mortified, and he runs over, and he kisses her cheek where the ball hit her head.
Oh, jeez.
That was adorable. It was so funny. I don't know.
Oh, boy.
That's a good time. So, where are the Penn State players going? I want the tight end, and he's going to be on my fantasy team, 44, Tyler
Warren.
Yeah.
Warren can go anywhere from 7 to 14, from the Jets to the Colts, and the Bears are sitting there at 10.
Oh, God, no.
You know why he wears 44, right?
No.
He grew up in Virginia. Evidently, his dad was a big Washington fan. And John Riggins.
Wow.
Right? So great story. Right? I find out why he wears 44. So we're sitting at dinner one night on the road, and I tell Jack Ham the story about why he wears 44. He says, really? He says, I've got an idea. He says, I know Riggins. I said, good. He says, I'm going to get a hold of him and see if we can get him to sign a 44 Riggins jersey and give it to him. And Jack got a hold of Riggins. Riggo did it. Jack gave him the jersey, and Tyler's like, wow, this is incredible. Now, Tyler's dad's the one that really loves Riggins, but it was actually a cool thing that Jack did. That was really neat.
Yeah, that was cool. Well, people are going to want his jersey someday. That kid
and Abdul Carter,
really good. And I would, if any of the top, you're saying he's going in the top 14, 17?
Yeah, 14.
If someone took him number 1, they would not make a mistake. So.
Oh, I know.
He's that good. He's a game-changing player. I look at the draft like you got to bring somebody in who can play right now. Right now. Not we're going to develop him. You don't have to develop him. He is a natural athlete. And it used to be take the best athlete out there, but I know it's not a great quarterback class. They're building some of these guys up into something that they're not, in my opinion. I would take the best athlete. I would take your linebacker, number 11, anytime. Don't worry about me and names. I'm not great with names, but he'll go top 3 or 4. So he's a game changer.
Well,
he's going to start right away,
Well, this is what I tell. I've been saying a lot. Todd knows I've been saying this a lot lately about best athlete. You know what? And you're right. This is not a great quarterback draft. When it comes to best athlete, I'm one of the top 10 teams picking. There are a multitude of reasons I am picking in the top 10. So since there are a multitude of reasons why I'm picking in the top 10, take the best player because at least it solves one of the multitude.
Absolutely. Because if you're not taking that guy, you may as well trade that pick for a proven NFL player who is going to impact your team immediately. I would take that top pick. If I'm not taking the best college player out there, I would like Gantry, the running back out of Boise State. I would take him.
Gentry, yeah.
Yeah, he's going to start right away. He's going to help your team right away. Don't take somebody that you're. Oh yeah, boy, the ceiling's so high for him. Well, if he's not there yet, I don't. That to me, it's a waste of time. Your second, third, fourth round picks, you can be a little more developmental with. But your first round pick, it's just my opinion, you got to take someone who's going to start. He's going to help your team right away. And doesn't matter what position is, as long as he's going to start. So.
Well, I have the other part too is if it's a player I've seen in person, which means during the week I'm getting ready for the game and I've watched video of them along with others, and then you go into the game. If it is a player that you spend some time saying, oh boy, he's a threat here, he's really good there, he's really good there, you sit there, that's a guy to me that at the next level I think has a real chance. Now let's get to the Giants, what they did 2 years ago. They drafted Dante Banks from Maryland, first round. Jack and I are talking on the phone. I said, when did his name ever come up when we were sitting down and talking about threats? Never. We never looked. To us, he was just another guy, right? And to his credit in the league, he's been just another guy.
Yeah. I think the only no-name guys you could take in the top 10 or whatever would be a stud down lineman, That nobody ever really talked about him, but boy, he's good.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Those guys are different, but they're going to start. They're going to make a difference with your team. I don't. You watch some of the picks these guys make, and you're like, what? What are you thinking? I mean, you can take Cam Ward, but you have no idea if he can play on the next level. None.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was good in college, but that's college. I would not waste my pick on him. I would. And I hope I'm 100% wrong. I would take Tyler over him any day because I know Tyler is going to start, and I'll pick up a quarterback in free agency. Go get Aaron Rodgers. Wait for the kid from Penn State to come out next year, which I'm sure he's going to. He's going to be a good NFL quarterback. So.
Yeah, it'll be his fourth. This is his fourth year, so he has to come out.
Yeah, and he'll be a good, solid NFL pick. He can play on the next level. His size alone gets him there.
Right. I think that, like Ward, I think actually Ward will be okay in the NFL. I have no issue with that.
I have no idea. I don't know how. I mean, look at how the kid at Chicago struggled. You know.
Yeah, but Ward's a little.
Can't miss.
No, well, hey Todd, remember what I said about Williams last year? I said he is great in havoc plays, but the biggest problem is he's the one that created the havoc.
Yes.
Yeah, but if they don't get on a good team, I mean, that's not. Some of you feel for some of these guys. They get put on a crappy team, and they're running for their life. You know.
Yeah, that's right.
And the organization
exactly
itself isn't very solid. And that look at Barkley with the Giants.
Yep.
I mean, that's like two different players from the Giants to the Eagles.
Yep.
You know, he gets on a good organization, a good team, and he's superhuman. He's jumping over people backwards, you know. Seriously, he's amazing. But he was not amazing with the Giants. He was good, but he was running for his life half the time. He got hurt because he was getting the crap beat out of him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's always what I'll never forget when Trevor Lawrence was picked first overall.
Yeah.
And I said, well, there's good news and bad news for Trevor Lawrence. I said the good news is the Jaguars, I said, have all 5 of their offensive linemen returning. The bad news is they were 1-15 last season, and they have all 5 offensive linemen returning.
Yeah, he's a perfect example. He cannot miss. And look how he struggled. You know, you got to be in the right situation. The right situation is, I think, at least 50% of it, you know?
Well, remember the draft where Dan Marino fell, and he ended up with the Dolphins?
Yeah,
he walked into a team drafting 26, which meant they had a good offensive line, good wide receivers, and suddenly he's out there throwing 48 touchdown passes. Gee.
Yeah, and you could name, I mean, some of these guys are super talented, you know, Brady and all that.
Right.
They have talent that people never really saw.
Sure.
You know, but Marino couldn't show everything he had at Pittsburgh. It was Pittsburgh, you know.
Yeah.
Brady didn't even start all the time at Michigan.
Oh, the fans at Michigan, I always love this. Every time he comes back to Michigan, oh, Brady, I'm sitting there like going, half you people wanted Drew Henson to be the starting quarterback when he was there and criticized Lloyd Carr left and right for starting him. Now it's like, he's a Michigan man. You're lucky he stayed.
It's a great trivia question for people who don't follow. What college did Brady go to?
Yeah.
He was not, you know, he was the last guy picked in the draft, and now he's the GOAT. So, but he had a good situation, too. He had excellent coaching, and it's just the Patriots were a good fit for him.
He's also really good.
To his credit, he made himself better and physically better, and he was very smart. But it's just you got to be in the right situation.
Oh, no question. Everything's about timing. Right place, right time, right everything. Timing means so much.
Carolina's a great quarterback. What, Young?
Oh, you know what? To his credit, after getting off to a rocky start there,
yep.
They benched him last year for a period of time, then brought him back as the starter. And at the last half of the season, he played very well.
Played real well. He's a good quarterback. Put him on a good team and watch how good he can be. Oh, what's his name? Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
You know? You put him with the Vikings, and he's Johnny Unitas. You put him on the Jets, he's on the bench. You know, because the Jets stunk. But got good coaching and good situation for him. Where did he land?
Seattle.
He'll do well there.
He'll be fine. Yep.
Yeah. Is Metcalf still there?
No, he's with the Steelers. He's with the Steelers now.
Metcalf's with the Steelers.
Yeah.
They don't have a quarterback, so that's cool.
Yeah.